Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos, my friends. My name is Jedley, and you are listening to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the vibrant and book-loving neighborhood of Reedville in Boston, Massachusetts. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Our mission is to help families grow stronger, closer, and kinder through the magic of reading together. And we're thrilled to have you with us on that journey. Help us spread the joy by sharing this podcast with the people you love. Tell your kids, teachers, school librarians, neighbors that they can find us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And we're also on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a really powerful show for you today. First up, Cindy Marco is here to celebrate her graphic novel. It's called The Elephant in the Room Makes Up a Friend. And later in the show, Taylor Woolley will be here to celebrate Earth Rover. It's her new picture book. Hey, want to let you know that we have a brand new sponsor here at Reading with Your Kids, Zevo Life. Zevo Life. Parents, ever wish you had a little more zip in your step when you're reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar for the 5th time today? Well, say hello to Zevo Life, your new best friend in daily wellness. Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant loaded with 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, antioxidants, and so much more. It's a powerhouse in just 1 teaspoon a day. And yes, it's giving people more energy, better gut health, and even healthier skin and hair. If you want to feel more energized, focused, vibrant during your next animated storytime performance, Zevo Life might just be your secret weapon. Now, the folks at Zevo Life have a really special treat for you. If you head on over to zevo.life and use the promo code READ, you'll get 30% off your order. That's zevo.life, promo code READ for 30% your order. And it comes with a 30-day risk-free guarantee. So you have nothing to lose except the sluggishness. Zevo Life, the better microalgae. Fuel your day. Read like a rock star. So head on over to zevo.life, ZIVO.life. Use the promo code READ to get 30% off your order. Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from Edmonton in Alberta, Canada, where today, thankfully, it's not minus 40 below zero. Our guest is here to celebrate her new graphic novel. It's called The Elephant in the Room. Mabel Makes Up a Friend. Please welcome to the show, Cindy Marco. Hey, Cindy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm delighted to have you on. I feel honored, like you're a survivor. We're talking about the brutal winters in
Oh, yeah.
Alberta, and it's I just have to take my hat off in admiration to anybody who can get through that, because I don't know if I can.
Thanks. Well, the trade-off is we have really long days in the summer, so it's still like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's still light out. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Mabel, why does she have to make up a friend?
I think she's someone who lives in her own head, you know, and she's been through a series of changes that so she's gone into it's her, you know, she's just started second grade, and her best friends from first grade are now in a different class. Plus, her family has moved to a new house because they had twins, right, babies, so they needed a bigger place. So they've moved, so now she doesn't know anybody on the bus she rides. Her parents are now super busy with the new babies, and her mom's a writer working from home, so she's busy working on a deadline, and she's sort of grown apart from her teenage sister, who's now, you know, doesn't make much sense to her anymore because they've grown apart, and her sister is now like into like Edgar Allan Poe and goth culture, I guess. So I think she's just feeling a little more isolated, but she's also someone who, like I said, also just lives in her own head anyway. So I think she's just sort of created this friend to just sort of help her work through these things that she's now facing.
Yeah. The graphic novel genre is something that's really taken off longer than we've been on the air. But certainly, you know, when we launched Reading with Your Kids back in 2017, it was a rarity to have a creator of a graphic novel on. But nowadays, boy, they're just, it's really exploding. Kids and families are just loving them.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, I was really into comics. You know, and I don't think we called them graphic novels at the time, but my older brother used to take me to the public library, and we'd read a lot of comics, you know, like Tintin and Asterix and Smurfs, like that kind of stuff. And Calvin and Hobbes was probably my favorite, which, as you can see, is like a heavily influenced The Elephant in the Room, with the, you know, the sort of imaginary friend that you sometimes wonder, are they really imaginary or are they magical, right? So there's always that question. I mean, I think the imaginary friend in Mabel Makes Up a Friend is imaginary, but at the same time, there's a bit more of a magical element to it that we'll begin to see in the second book that I'm currently working on, and just that there's other imaginary friends out there that they can interact with. So that they both see and interact with. So it's, I guess, sort of, you know, stretching like what is actually real in our world to what is real in Mabel's world.
Yeah. You know, from what you told me so far, it sounds like Mabel is going through what lots of kids that age have to go through, especially that growing apart from your sister or sibling or a friend that you've had, and it's just inevitable. People do change and they grow, and sometimes they grow apart.
Yeah, for sure. And Mabel also, I never explicitly state it in the book, but she's also neurodivergent. So she's has some like attention deficit type things, and like she's actually, the stuff that she struggles with, a lot of it is based on my own experiences as a neurodivergent kid, and at the time undiagnosed, because girls were often missed, because you present differently as a girl, right? So your hyperactivity is internal instead of external. So I think they just you know, didn't start recognizing that until a lot of us were adults. So so has trouble with paying attention in school. She's very messy. She's really forgetful. So, and then has like a sensitive to perceived rejection, and a lot of this stuff that she starts to get anxiety about. Her imaginary friend, Mr. Elephant, sort of is a cool-headed voice of reason and just helps her through this. So, yeah. So it's the kind of thing that everybody deals with sometimes. So I think on that level, all kids will be able to relate to just having anxieties about these things, about being the new person, about you know, like you said, like the growing apart of family members or friends, but also something that neurodivergent kids deal with on a daily basis multiple times. And so they'll be able to relate to Mabel in a strong way as well.
Yeah. You said that, that girls, and I think you're talking and somewhat about yourself, the hyperactivity doesn't show externally, it's internally. What's that like? I can picture
Oh,
that. I'm sure I did it. I know what hyperactive boys look like and what that
yeah.
means. Not quite sure what it means to be, hyper on the inside.
Well, I just discovered, I think like a year or two ago, that not everybody has a constant monologue running through their head 24 hours a day. Like I had insomnia for most of my life. I've since like have finally found some supplements that calm that tendency so that I can actually sleep. But I there's always like two or three running dialogues going through my head at any given time. So my thoughts are never quiet. And you're often thinking about things when you shouldn't be, So like, you're supposed to be focused on something, and yet you've got this thing in the back of your head that's just won't shut up. So that's what makes it hard to concentrate on other things, or, like just to really feel like you're calm at any given time. Like you're always just sort of like worked up, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, that certainly must be. I can't imagine that. I remember I had this one experience. I performed for 35 years at school shows and whatnot, and I remember being at one show and thinking, I'm doing the show and everything is coming out and it's just natural. And then back in my head thinking, oh, what am I going to have for lunch today? And so it's having these two things going on. And
Yeah.
I thought, and I kind of sat back and a third way I goes, wow, look at that. This is really interesting. And then thankfully I gave myself a dope slap and said, focus on the audience that you're in front of, please. So I got disciplined. But I can't imagine that 24 hours a day.
Yeah, no, and it can be quite like debilitating sometimes, because you need to focus on, especially things that you don't want to be focusing on, or like aren't interesting enough, right? So that's the trade-off. So things that you find boring or you can't find any interest in, they'll feel like torture to have to dig in and do that, which is why I think Mabel has such trouble with homework that she doesn't like. She really likes art and things like that, but when it comes time for math, it just feels impossible, because she's just hasn't found the thing that's interesting about it yet, and for me, when I was in school, I didn't find math interesting. Grade 11 and 12, I took accounting instead, because that made more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it just felt too abstract, I think. And it wasn't until after college, just like watching a lot more science shows and seeing like shows about physics and stuff, that I started to understand why math was interesting. And by then it was like, oh, well, I kind of felt like I'd sort of missed out on something that really was interesting, that I just at the time hadn't realized what the applications were, or maybe I just had, the teachers that I had just weren't able to show me how it was interesting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but that's just sort of how that works. When you have a low interest in something, it just feels impossible to complete it.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see that with Mabel in the book. When it's artwork, she can hyper focus,
Mm-hmm.
which means like you can actually shut everything out and just laser focus. Like sometimes I'll be working and it'll be like 16 hours on something, and I'll forget to eat, I'll forget to use the bathroom, and then suddenly I'll realize, oh, why do I feel so bad? I'm just like, oh, I'm starving, and I, like, it's just you forget to take care of yourself because you're so laser focused on this one really, really interesting thing that you're doing. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the kind of struggles that had an impact on me, that made me sort of want to have Mabel have the same sort of experiences, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So in some ways, Mabel is a little autobiographical.
It is, yeah. I mean, I didn't have the same issues with siblings. I have two older brothers, and they're quite they're quite older than me, I guess. Like they're 2 years apart, but they're 4 and 6 years apart from me.
Mhm.
So I guess in that way, like with her older sister, it was like that. I don't have younger siblings, but we did move a lot. Like every 2 years since I was 9, we
Mhm.
had moved. So I had real struggles with that, I think, just having to finally have felt comfortable and made friends, and then we'd move again and you'd be the new person all over again. And it was like really tough because you're not able to sort of maintain long-term friendships.
Mhm.
So I think for that, with Mabel moving and then not having her friends in her class was something that is definitely like autobiographical for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That must, I can't imagine that, what that would have been like moving and having to start over. I've told the story on the show. I grew up in an inner city neighborhood where, we were all pretty much all related in some ways. All the members of my family lived within
Yeah.
a mile of me. And, I don't remember making friends because they were always there. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until high school when I went to, a Jesuit high school in another community that all of a sudden I'm hearing like, oh, I gotta make friends with people, and I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
how to do that.
Yeah. My last 2 years of high school were again at a new school. We had moved, and I think we moved on my 16th birthday. It was devastating.
Birthday.
Yeah, yeah. And so that would have been in November. So the school year had already started, and it was uh, grade 11. And then everyone else had grown up together since like kindergarten. And then, it took me like the whole year to sort of find, you know, I guess good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like, I think I ended up sort of being, friends with everybody, but or at least friendly with everybody, but having trouble finding like really close friends. And I think by the end of the senior year, I had a couple of really close friends, but it felt really hard,
Mm-hmm.
just because they were all so tight knit. They didn't really need, I guess, to open up to have a new person come in, So yeah, it did. It felt tough and lonely, but
It's interesting. I just listened to a podcast yesterday about the fact that there are more and more people identifying themselves as lonely, as
yeah.
not having any close friends, and it's a lot of guys.
Yeah, I read that too. There's a couple articles recently just on this, what they call like a loneliness epidemic, and especially with men and young men needing to find friendships, or even when they have friendships, it they're being this sort of social thing that says that men can't be affectionate with each other, and my partner, who is also a children's author and illustrator, we've talked about this a lot, and we just had a weekend where we played a bunch of board games with some friends of his that were from college and stuff, and they'll hug and say I love you, which is amazing to me because there's a lot of men that I think would benefit from that, but they feel like that they've been told their whole lives that makes you weak, which is just wrong. I think it makes you stronger,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I, the reason I brought that up is because I think, and we're all about reading with your kids, whether they're 3, 4 years old and can't read by themselves and they just want to gnaw on the pages of a board book, or if they're independent readers in late elementary, middle school, or even high school. There's so much value to reading with your kids or co-reading and then coming together to talk
Yeah.
about the books. And I think in light of the fact that there are so many people who are growing up and feeling this epidemic of loneliness, being aware of that and being that hopefully parents will start looking for signs that is this something that my kid might have to struggle with, and having those conversations, and hopefully if they do need some help, getting them the help that they're going to need.
Yeah, the other article that I read yesterday that talked about one of the ways that they found to combat loneliness was taking a page from Denmark, who I guess they'd lived there for a year, and everybody in Denmark has hobbies, right? Lots of hobbies, and because it's one of the happiest countries in the world when they measure those things. And so they said when they came back to the United States, they, for a year, tried a whole bunch of different hobbies and said that it changed their life permanently, because when you have hobbies, you meet people usually like that do the same hobby, because there's all these communities. So if maybe you're playing pickleball, or you're in a book club, or you're doing, say, embroidery, there's tons of, whether it's online or in person, there's lots of places where you can go where people have the same hobby, and then they're this really tight-knit community. So for me, I've been in a Dungeons and Dragons group for about 6 years now with a friend from high school. And he was the one who brought me in, and we were in art class together, but so now, like, his wife is also in the group, and we've become really good friends. And so this group of us have been playing together for 6 years. We've gotten together and done escape rooms, but we're all we don't live in the same place. Right. We do this online. But I was thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, every week I meet up with this group of friends, which for me, who I work from home, so I'm not really in a position to be meeting people. I think it really has let me still feel connected in that way to a group of people, so right. I really think there's something to that.
Yeah. Well, it's ironic that we're living in this age where we have all of these devices that are meant to connect us, and we're feeling disconnected.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a big trade-off, because a lot of social media is very staged and false. And so it makes you feel that your life is lacking in some way, or that, and it's given boys and girls like body dysmorphia, and, and just where they're feeling inadequate. So as much as it is bringing people together, it's also making people feel really isolated and like they're not good enough. So it's tough, it's given us good things and definitely given us bad things. So
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Having those conversations with our kids is so important, helping them understand that what they see on social media is staged. And, that beautiful woman who looks like she just rolled out of bed and ready for the runway probably took 8 or 9 hours and lots of special effects and filters to get that look.
Oh, for sure. I really appreciate reading Hugh Jackman for the latest Deadpool and Wolverine movie. He said, look, for this shirtless scene I had to do, he said, I had to dehydrate myself for 3 days. He had all these things that he had to do just for a scene where he has a shirt off for like a minute. And he said, this is unhealthy and not sustainable. Please don't try to look like this. So like, I think that people don't realize just like how much of their job is maintaining a specific body for people who are either in movies or on TV, in the public eye, that kind of thing, right? They have trainers. They spend like hours and hours a day, on working out and diet and things like that. Things that your average person just doesn't have the resources or the money to do, or the time even. And it's also probably not healthy, like you get people where when you start to get older and it gets harder and harder to maintain that, I think it really, really affects your like sense of self, and that's why you find people who do really drastic things because they're afraid that if they lose how they look, that their value is gone, which is horrible. It's and it's false. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Hugh Jackman, you have absolutely no worries. No way I'm going to take my shirt off, period. I try to look like. Hey, choosing to create graphic novels for this age group, was it something that you always envisioned, or did you get to a point where you're like, I had these struggles and I think I can make a difference in some kids' lives if I share this part of me?
You know, so when I was, I think 10, I was in sixth grade, and this was, I was born in northern British Columbia, and so I was living at the time in Terrace, and I drew, like, I used to read a lot of books, and I drew I started drawing, as soon as I could hold a crayon, right? So for me, art was always a part of my life, and reading was always a part of my life, right? My dad, like, used to read a book every night, and I think just having that modeled for me as a kid, I wanted to read too. So I think I started reading on my own even before kindergarten or whatever, but I was like really quick to learn reading. But I think it hadn't occurred to me that reading and writing are like sort of like two sides of the same coin, right? Like, so when I was in the sixth grade and my teacher chose me to go to a young writers conference, that blew my mind. I was like, oh, like, because I thought, oh, you do one or the other, right? Like, it just, so it's like, oh, wow, maybe I can write too. And when I was there, my favorite author at the time was Gordon Corman, who is Canadian, although I think he lives in New York now. But he had published, well, he wrote his first book when he was 12, and it was published when he was 14. And his books were my favorite. I used to always get them out of the Scholastic flyers. But anyway, so he was at this young writers conference, and he may have only been like 21 or 22 at the time. And so I got to be in a workshop with him.
Oh, neat.
And a couple other authors as well. And right from that moment, I just said, I want to write and illustrate books for kids when I grow up, and so I'd always said that. And then I think when I was about 30, I was like, I have to stop just saying this and figure out how to do it. So I Googled how to write a children's book and just went from there. And so, so now, I think I think it started with picture books, and Kung Pao Chicken, which was my first series with Scholastic, had originally come from a picture book, but I had sort of spun it off into a chapter book. And at the time, it was sort of before this real big resurgence of chapter books, and a lot of my agent at the time had said, oh, it's really hard to break into these, right, unless like it's a licensed product or something like that. But then we'd heard that Katie Carell at Scholastic was looking for, she had created this new format for this hole in the market. And so we submitted, and Kung Pao Chicken was born. And so that was like I think an age group I hadn't considered at the time. And, but after doing, the 5 books in that, they're for like 5 to 7-year-olds, just people who are like emerging readers, and getting so much fan mail from kids themselves, plus librarians, teachers, parents, saying, their child struggled with reading, or they didn't want to read until they read your book, and now they can't get enough and are reading, like, so I think, that kind of feedback sort of changes you. And now that's like, this is the age, right? Like this is where we make or break readers. And, I want to get them all. It's like Pokemon, right? You just want to get them all reading. So, I think that's sort of become my sort of, favorite age group is that sort of emerging readers. But like I said, I also did the middle grade, one middle grade series so far. And I do have ideas for even some older, like young adult, because I think there's, I think there's some areas there that really need, like, we need more stuff for boys. They say a lot of teenage boys are moving on from middle grade books straight into adult books because they don't feel like there's, like, enough there for them. Like, not to say that there's nothing, but that I think that they're feeling there's not enough of what they want to read. Right. And for me too, like, I always wanted to read funny stuff, or and and not to say that there's nothing, but to, a lot of, I think it's just something that it has, there's less of, I think. So, so I'd like to do some, maybe more like graphic novels for that age that are funny.
Great. I think that's fantastic. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about The Elephant in the Room. Mabel Makes Up a Friend, and find out more about all the great things coming from your imagination.
Oh, well, I have a website that lists all my books, just cindymarco.com. I have, after Mabel comes out, there's a second book in the series coming out next year, 2026. And then the year after that, 2027, I have another chapter book, graphic novel hybrid coming out called Ghost Pouncers, which is about, like, have you ever seen how cats will kind of look like they see something, but there's nothing there? So, and sort of the joke is that, they can see ghosts, right? So I have this group of cats who I guess investigate ghost sightings in their neighborhood, and they're like a little team of cat ghostbusters. So,
oh, cool. That sounds great. Well, you have an open invitation to come back and celebrate all the new books coming from you.
Oh, wonderful. I'd love to.
Awesome. We had a great time speaking to the author of The Elephant in the Room. Mabel Makes Up a Friend. It's the new graphic novel from our friend, Cindy Marco. Cindy, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me. It was lots of fun.
Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Hey, my friends, one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting Reading with Your Kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Atlanta in Georgia. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Earth Rover. Please welcome to the show author and illustrator Taylor Woolley. Taylor, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. Thanks so much for having me.
Delighted to have you on. What a neat idea for a book. Tell us all about Earth Rover, please.
Yeah, so Rover is a basset hound who is named Rover, who thinks that he should get a position at NASA as the next lunar rover. So this book is kind of like his cover letter to NASA applying for the job.
I love that. And so I am somewhat familiar. I've been a dog person all my life, but never really knew about hounds until maybe 15 years ago when we adopted a beagle with something else in it, and then my wife's best friend adopted a hound, and they are very unique dogs, very unique breeds of dogs that are different in lots of ways than your typical dog. Is there a reason why you chose the Basset Hound?
Yeah, so I personally have dachshunds, so that's where my love of hounds came in. And the story itself was inspired by one of my little dachshunds, Snoopy. We made him a cardboard rocket ship because he'd refused to go on walks with us. So we'd stick him in the little cardboard rocket ship and kind of pull him along with us, like a wagon almost. So when I went to write the book, I thought I needed a slightly sturdier hound to go to the moon than a dachshund. So I sized up to the Basset Hound. They have like insane senses of smell and sight. Like hounds are bred to hunt, so their senses are just really well tuned. So this being like a rover and trying to like sniff out water and do all of the things that a robot rover does on the moon is actually a really nice fit for like the earthly skill set of a dog.
Yeah. When we adopted our beagle, we took him the first day. We took him for a walk, and he walked to the front of my next door neighbor's house and stopped, and that was it. I had never encountered all the dogs that we had. I'd never encountered a dog like that who just refused to walk, and I'm not going. And that was pretty much his story. We got him to walk around the neighborhood some, but it was always a struggle.
Yeah, Snoopy was definitely into the, oops. Sorry, something just popped up on my screen. Snoopy was definitely into the drama. So he would just kind of like keel over at the end of the driveway and refuse to move, which was funny because he was only 8.5 pounds. So you could just kind of like scoop him up and be like, we're on our way.
Yeah. Well, what a neat idea for a book to have a canine rover replace the robots to explore the moon. I love that idea. Did you create this book with the idea that, this could be a fun book that inspires kids to check out the STEM fields?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it even goes a little bit past the STEM fields. This book definitely focuses on STEM topics and like space exploration, but it's kind of like a call to kids to like follow your dreams, whatever those are. So Rover is not the typical candidate for an astronaut, but he follows his dream. He puts himself out there, and it may not turn out exactly how he planned, but I think that the ending is very satisfying and that he made a step toward his goal.
Yeah. I think that's a great lesson to teach kids. To go for your dreams, no matter how preposterous people may think your dreams are and how unrealistic, because you never know in your pursuit of those dreams where you will end up and how close you will come.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think too, one of the things in working with kids who are athletes or people who are in the arts and performing, I think a lot of them have this idea that, I'm really inspired by that star, and that's the level that I want to get to. And they think that if I don't get to that level, it's a failure. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. So the book itself, like technically Rover does fail. He doesn't go all the way to the moon, but he never would have gotten to NASA, like if he hadn't put himself out there and followed his dream. Yeah. I think that that's an important story to tell kids. And just because you have a vision of what you want your future to look like, you can't let that big dream stop you from making progress either. I think sometimes kids can be intimidated, especially as they get older and realize all of the work that goes into becoming an astronaut or pro sports player or whatever their big dream is. And if they aren't seeing results right away, they get discouraged. But I definitely want kids to take away from this book that they should keep progressing and keep putting themselves out there and keep trying and see what amazing things happen.
Now, was there something in your life that kind of it inspired this book?
Definitely the story of my dog. That's where like the literal idea came from. But in terms of kind of like the message behind it, I think my pursuit of becoming a picture book author and illustrator was definitely something that when I was a kid felt unattainable. I couldn't spell and I still can't spell. But that didn't stop me from like writing all of these insane stories in my notebooks. And I had a teacher in third grade whose name was Mrs. Taylor. And she had written on my report card that I like failed spelling, but she like wrote in a comment that said like, but it doesn't stop her from writing. And she tells the most beautiful stories. And I always encourage her, just to keep exploring those stories. So, I think technically when I was in elementary school, my dream was to be a cartoonist. So I took a little bit of a turn to picture books, but kept working at it. And finally, in September, I'll have a book on the shelf that kids can read, and I'm super excited about it.
Excellent, excellent. Are you such a poor speller that when you use spell check, it just comes back and says, yeah, I don't have a clue what she's trying to say here?
Definitely. And to the point where my teacher couldn't read what I was writing, so she would call me up to her desk and asked me to read my stories to her. And then she would grade it on, because I could read back what I wrote. So it must have made some sense to me. But it was incomprehensible to the point where she did not know what words I was trying to write. And I think that says a lot for a third grade teacher to be like, I don't really know what this kid's getting at.
Well, but what a beautiful thing your teacher did for you. She pointed out you weren't mastering or even coming close to mastering the art, if you would, of spelling. But she let you know that really wasn't all that important, that it wasn't holding you back from creating beautiful stories.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever had a chance to, is Mrs. Taylor still with us? And does she know that you'll have a book out soon?
No, she isn't. I've definitely kept in contact with a couple of my other elementary school teachers who are still around. And I'd love to go back and share my stories with them. But she herself, was definitely older when I was in third grade. So she's not still around.
I had a conversation with another author illustrator, the other day, and she was telling me that her first opportunity to speak to an editor was when she was a teenager, and at that time the editor said, "Hey, you're pretty good, but you're not ready, and you need to go out and create your own style." And as I look at your portfolio and on your website and some of the cover art that you've created, you definitely have a style that I can recognize. Is there a way to describe your style?
I would say it's like picture book influenced by like 90s Nickelodeon cartoons.
Okay.
So it doesn't go all the way to 90s Nickelodeon cartoons. It's like a little bit rounder and friendlier. But you can definitely see my influences from when I was young in the media I was consuming.
Yeah. That's because I have zero ability when it comes to visual arts. I know what I like when I see it. I can tell you what I like, but I can't necessarily tell you what I like about it. And I like, as soon as you said that your style, the images are kind of rounder, and it's like, that clicked in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I see that. Was that a choice that like you made intentionally, or was it just something like, oh, I tend to like this, and let me keep going with this style?
I think it's just something that's kind of developed over time. I studied graphic design in school, but I'm self-taught when it comes to like the drawing illustration aspect of things. So I definitely took some classes online and built up my drawing foundations, but I think being self-taught and exploring illustration on my own kind of gave me a little bit of freedom to develop quirks that maybe someone who's in like a more traditional program wouldn't have, or it would have been kind of worked out of them through their class structure.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I noticed that you've illustrated a book for another author. Do you think it would be difficult for you to, if a publisher came to you and said, hey, I really like this story, but we'd like somebody else to illustrate it? Do you think it would be difficult for you to kind of let go and let somebody else tell part of your story?
I think it probably depends on the story. I think with Rover, I was like really there. Like I felt like my illustrations tell the story really well. I think that my illustration style, like if the story is humorous or a little bit silly, fits really well with those. There are definitely manuscripts that I write that like maybe need a little bit more of a serious tone or a different hand. And knowing that my illustrations skew very hard in like one style, I think I would be able to kind of step away from the right story, to say, yeah, like let's get another illustrator in here and see what they can add to the story. I think being an illustrator myself too, and knowing how much I can add to another author's story, it could be exciting in the future to see how a different illustrator could lend their expertise to my words.
Yeah. Have you ever, I don't know, I've never run into it, but have you ever, do you know of any occasion when a story's been illustrated by two different, we have two different versions of this book, one by illustrator A and one by illustrator B?
I don't know off the top of my head, like if they've remade a book with a different illustrator.
Yeah.
I know there are like illustration duos, which still blows my mind. Like two people illustrating the same book at one time.
That would be hard to imagine. I was going to say it would be hard to picture. Then I just tell me for you, what comes first? Is it the images or the story?
It's definitely the story. So I will write a manuscript, and get the manuscript really tight, and then I'll work on kind of like the rough sketches. I know some illustrators will kind of think visually first. But for me, I think my workflow is still that I'm coming up with the words first. I go back and forth a little bit once I start sketching. I'll edit things or move things around, but there is a version of the manuscript that comes first.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, how's the spelling these days? Does your agent have to call you over and say, hey, look, Taylor, what are you trying to get? Oh, man.
Computers and spell check are a lifesaver. Like, I don't even think that I really needed spelling as a skill because now the computer fixes it all for me. And I can even go into spell check and say, like, when I'm typing this sequence of letters, change it to this word. Cause like spell check won't recognize it and switch it for me, but like I know what I'm trying to say. So I look it up and I add it to spell check as like, here's what you need to do. And that's helped a ton.
I know there's somebody out there hearing you say this and think, well, if you can figure out when you do SPLE, you mean this word, if you can figure that, why can't you just memorize how to spell the word?
Oh, it just doesn't come to me. I think that must be like the creative illustrator side of me that, definitely very stronger visually when it comes to memory than like trying to memorize like dates or names or sequences of letters. That was always a struggle.
I'm curious for the future. Are you hoping to do more picture books? Do you hope to make Rover into a series? Are you thinking of maybe dabbling into graphic novels, based on your love of cartooning when you were younger?
Yeah, I think definitely open to all opportunities. I'll probably stick with picture books for the time being. I would love to do a graphic novel eventually. I have a 1-year-old. It was her birthday yesterday. Graphic novels take so much time. I think I'd have to wait till she's just a little bit older.
I can understand that. We had an illustrator on, I just received her book today. And she was, figuring out, kind of calculating how many illustrations she had to create for the graphic novel. And it was a very daunting number. I think she said she had 250 pages and 4 or 5 illustrations on the page. And I'm like, the mind's just boggled.
Yeah, I love reading them. And I definitely have a huge appreciation for everyone who works on it. They're huge projects, and hopefully someday in the future. But not in the near future. I'll probably stick to like the 32 to 40 page range.
Now, is there a project that you're working on right now?
So I have Rover and Birthday Bash both coming out in September. I'm pretty focused on them, and then I'm working on pitching some other dummies right now, but I don't have anything else squared down as like coming soon after Rover and Birthday Bash.
Now, you got to tell everybody what a dummy is. You're not talking about me.
No. So it's like a mock-up of a picture book that you use to sell the idea to like editors and art directors and people at publishers.
Yeah. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Earth Rover and find out more about you.
Yeah, so you can find me at Woolly Stories, WOOLLEY. WoollyStories.com is my website, or at Woolly Stories on social media is my handle pretty much anywhere I am on social media.
And Stories is spelled the traditional way, not the Taylor way. Okay. We've had a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Earth Rover. It's a new picture book coming out from our guest, Taylor Woolley. Taylor, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to talk about Rover.
My friends, we are so happy that you decided to spend part of your day with us here at Reading with Your Kids. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please pass it on. Share the link to leave a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss a moment of Reading with Your Kids. We love to connect with you on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on X, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to check out readingwithyourkids.com. It is the hub for all things Reading with Your Kids, including learning how you can be a guest here in the show, visiting our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, and exploring all the amazing new books that we are celebrating. Big thanks go out to our guest today, Taylor Woolley. Please be sure to check out her new picture book, Earth Rover. Also want to thank Cindy Marco. Please be sure to check out The Elephant in the Room. Mabel makes up a friend. We want to thank all of our amazing sponsors. You know, when you use our promo codes, not only do you get a great deal, but we may receive a small commission that helps us keep the Reading with Your Kids podcast going strong. Today, we want to say a special thanks to Zevo Life, zevo.life. Go there and use the promo code READ to get 30% off your order of Zevo Life. Of course, we also want to thank BigForkBrands.com. Use READ, our promo code READ, to receive 20% off. And CozyEarth.com. Use our promo code READ to receive 41% off your order. I want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. You're helping to make this world a kinder, smarter, better place. You do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.